Our final keynote speaker is Derek Clark. Derek's life is one of resilience and redemption. As a child, he suffered unthinkable child abuse, abandonment, and emotional distress. His 13 years in the San Francisco Bay Area foster care system reflected an early life of humiliation, aggression, emotional distress, overwhelming anxiety, and being wrongfully labeled. With amazing help from his foster parents, a great social worker, and mentors, he has defied the artificial limitations imposed upon him. Derek knows firsthand how to cope with adversity and overcoming hardship. His past has never held him back from accomplishing what he has set his heart and mind to. Derek is an inspiring speaker and trainer, has been featured on Headline News, the Steve Harvey TV show, the Ricky Lake show, and other shows around the world. He has recently become a viral video sensation with his Rapping Dad videos, which have had millions of views and have been featured on the Best of Instagram and Vine. He is the author of 6 books, including Never Limit Your Life, Disable the Label, and I Will Never Give Up book series. As a speaker, author, songwriter, and singer, Derek has spoken and performed his music from Australia to Canada, including the President of the United States. Probably Obama, right? His true life trials and personal triumphs have inspired organizations with his message of hope and unwavering perseverance. He has turned a situation from a victim to a victor and equipping him with the wisdom and will to never give up. Please help me welcome Derek Clark.
Yes, it was not Trump. It was not Obama. It was President Bush. So it's great to be here. My name's Derek Clark, and you've had 2 great speakers this morning. We're all on the same circuit. We know each other. And so we have 3. I'm the 3rd speaker, the closer, they call it. And every one of us has a different way of delivery. And my delivery, like Josh and Ashley know, I like to go deep. Because that's where true transformation happens, is within your spirit. So let me tell you, both of my foster parents that I love very much were both educators. So my dad was a teacher, 2nd grade teacher, and my mom was a juvenile hall teacher. So she didn't take nothing. But what I learned growing through the system, dealing with many social workers, dealing with child welfare, then as a professional dealing with other professionals, is that you get burnt out. It's part of what happens. You get burnt. You're tired. You don't see the positive outcome quick enough. We're in a society of instant gratification. How come he doesn't get it? How come he doesn't get it? But being burnt out to me tells me that's all right. It's all right if you're burnt out. You know what that really tells me is you were on fire at one point, and I'm going to get your fire back today. Now, a lot of you didn't start this job to get rich. You're not in it for the income. You're really in it for the outcome. And here is a perfect example of a positive outcome. I'm going to get pretty deep today. I have excerpts from my psychiatric evaluations, my neurological evaluations, my speech and language evaluations, psychological exams, and I'll get to that point and share those with you. How I came in this world is a crazy story. My mother was sexually abused. She had been raped many times. And she got pregnant by this guy. And when she told this guy that I'm pregnant with your kid, he says, well, you better go get an abortion. If you don't get an abortion, I'll kill the kid myself. So at 3 months, no abortion. 6 months, no abortion. 7 months pregnant. You have a nice bump there. 7 months pregnant, my mom's waitressing at a restaurant in San Diego, California, doing her job, waiting tables. And my big 6'5" father comes into that restaurant in a fit of rage, grabs my mother by her long blonde hair, pulls her down, drags her by her hair back into the kitchen, and continues to stomp on her stomach over and over again, kicking her, punching her, saying, I'm going to kill this kid. But I lived. I tell people all over this world, I go about 200,000 miles a year. Even Josh and Ashley, we were talking out there, go, oh my gosh, you speak so much. I speak a lot. 200,000 miles a year from Australia to the top of the earth, basically, northern territory of Canada for our First Nations brothers and sisters up there. And I tell people that as long as there's air in your lungs, as long as the blood is running through your veins, you have a purpose. I'm in a room with very special people because 99% of you know your purpose is to save little Derek's and Derecas, to save them, to give them a better life. People always ask me, I get tons of messages on all my social media and emails about, Derek, I want to kill myself, I'm lost, all these things. And some of the main questions, Derek, what's the meaning of life? And I always flip it on them, to give your life meaning. You are here today because you have meaning. The secret to living is giving. You're giving. You're giving more than your 9 to 5. And so, unfortunately, my dad went to prison. He got out. My mom got back with this guy. When I asked my mom 25 years later, why'd you ever get back with this guy? Derek, he was so good looking. So then I knew I wasn't dealing with a woman with all her marbles in her head, right? I mean, I knew that, wow, okay, she's not all there. And plus, if I slept with him, I knew where he was. So I didn't have to look over him because he always said, if you leave me, I'll break your neck. And he told me he learned how to break necks in prison. And you know where they found his ex-girlfriend? In a ditch with a broken neck. And they couldn't pin it on him, but his family and we knew that his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, was dead because of him. We ran away when I was 2. We lived in a park in El Cajon, California. We were homeless. I have an older sister who's 10 years older than I. We eventually leave that park after a while, and we go live in a 1-car garage, all 3 of us. And my dad comes, my mom must have been communicating with my father again, because my dad finds us in Escondido. Comes into the garage drunk with a bottle of wine, throws it to the ground and says, I'm going to kill this kid now. Picks up a piece of glass, shattered glass of the long neck of the wine bottle, and comes after me. Says, I'm going to kill him. I'm not paying child support. I'm not paying child support. And as he comes after me, my sister jumps in, my mom jumps in. She has a scar to this day across her neck. My aunt hears this, calls the police. We were living in my aunt's garage. We couldn't even live in her house. She wouldn't let us. So she let us live in her little yucky 1-car garage. And so the police come, and that's the last time I ever see my dad. I used to think growing up, where's my dad? How come my dad isn't coming back for me? And what you think sometimes, because we're biologically wired, like, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want my mom, I want my dad, because what is love to me? Love is you abuse me. Love is all the things that I'm about to tell you. That's what I thought love was. I can take it, I just want to be with my mom. Well, my mom and my dad, that was it. My mom hooks up with another man. She told me to my face as an adult, Derek, we need to get out of that garage. We needed money. So she found a guy that had money. And we moved to his house to Fremont, California. And from Southern California, we moved all the way to Fremont, California. And my new stepdad pretends like he likes me until my mom gets pregnant with his kid. 3 kids, 3 different men. And he turns on me. I'm a reminder of a mistake. I have scars all over me from brutal child abuse. That's not my word. That's the state's records word. Brutal child abuse. And 2 pieces of abuse that changed my life forever. The first one is I had a problem with my mouth. My favorite word at 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years old was the F word. Not fun in family. But it was very normal for me to say F you to everybody, from the pastor on down to my foster parents to whoever. And I said it to my biological mom a few times, and she brought me inside. I'll never forget. She brought me inside and pulled me up the stairway, and halfway up the stairway, I hold on to the stairs, and I look down, and I see yellow Coors beer cans everywhere, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my mom is drunk. She pulls me up the stairs, takes me to the bathroom, throws me in, kicks the door shut, turns on the hot water to the sink. She proceeds to tell me how bad of a kid I am, that I wish I never had you, that you're just like your dad, and I'll never forget this. You're the devil, Derek. You're the devil. And all I see is steam coming up from the sink. I have no idea what's going to happen. This little kid right here, 5 years old, I have no idea what's going to happen. And my mom does the unthinkable. She grabs my little left hand and holds it under that hot water as I screamed, "No, Mom, I'm sorry, and she won't let me go. And finally, she lets me go. And I hold my hand and I look in the mirror. To this day, I remember the reflection of the angriest person I've ever seen, my mother, who's supposed to love me, who's supposed to guide me, who's supposed to protect me, give me theirs, tell me how great I am. And then my mom flips again, grabs my left little hand and holds it under that hot water again. I just screamed for my life. And when she finally let me go, I'll never forget, the skin and part of the flesh came off in one big clump in the sink. And not only did she burn my hand, she burned into my heart, she burned into my soul, she burned into my spirit, she burned into my mind that I was a bad kid, that I had no value. She bandaged me up. It took a while for this to heal. In the meantime, my stepdad's trying to drown me in the toilet many times. This one particular time, he's holding me down in the toilet bowl so long that my mom is screaming, "You're going to kill him! You're going to kill him! He can't breathe!" He goes, "I don't care." And he brings me up, my face, this kid. I breathe. He slams me back down. That's why my nose is all jacked up, probably in there, because he hit my nose across the toilet bowl. And he held me down, and while I'm being held down, my mother grabs my wrist and pulls my arm back so hard, the wrong way, where it ripped my arm from my shoulder and just hung there. They never took me to the hospital for all the cracks on my head and anything like that. And it never healed right. And only if I show you, I did a TED talk on the power of determination. And then when I was done, I took a picture with the logo. But you can see this shoulder here is much higher than this shoulder. It's off by like almost 2 inches or so, 1.5 inches. And I like to wakeboard and play hoop and stuff. And when I take off my shirt, it's just a weird situation and something I've had to live with for my life, for all of my life. And that would explain why, growing up in the foster care system, I hated toilets. Toilets were a symbol of death. Water was a symbol of death. You never know the triggers, what goes on in people's home. And then you have a kid acting out in your classroom or on your case because you don't know what's triggering. I get triggered every single day until in my 30s. I was able to start really healing because of a therapy called EMDR. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. If you don't know what that is, you Google that. It is a life changer. In California, 78% of the veterans through Kaiser Hospital who have done with PTSD, who have done EMDR, have been healed. 78% with Kaiser. It is a great therapy. And I've been through lots of therapy growing up. So when my biological parents were done with some of the abuse, they finally put me in a car and we drove to a big building. And when we walked in, my mom and my stepdad are talking to some people, and I keep looking at them, and then this guy in a white coat comes to me and says, "Derek, come with me." Okay. And I see my mom leaving. And I go, "Mom!" And she doesn't even look back. I don't ever remember my mom saying, "I love you." I don't remember ever getting love from her. I remember getting love from my sister, who was 10 years older than I. And she left. and never came back. She abandoned me at a psychiatric hospital at 5 years old and never came back. So I spent time in that psychiatric facility like a lab rat. My foster parents have pictures of my brain scans where I'm in machines, and they came up with all of these labels. And I'm going to share some of these labels. I'm going to go through them quick because I don't have a lot of time. But here we go. Derek's background includes extreme physical and economical impoverishment during infancy and a father that brutalized Derek and his mother during the same period. Derek's father was an alcoholic. Stepdad was an abused child and is known to be very strict with children. What a cop-out. It's a choice to beat your kid. It's a choice to kill your kid. The number one killer of kids are their parents. Mother and stepfather do not want to go to therapy and decline parents' classes. They feel it's Derek's problem and not theirs. I wish I had known this growing up in the foster care system because I believed one day my parents are going to come back for me. Yet no phone calls, no visits for 25 years until I finally reached out to my own mom. Well, when you grow up in the foster home, you see other kids get visitation, go to McDonald's, go to the park, whatever. So that made me angrier and angrier every time nobody came to visit me. Father is an institution for the criminally insane. They found my dad when I was 5 years old at Folsom State Prison, inmate number 58520, for a string of armed robberies from Arizona to California. Violent offender. Encopretic and inuretic behavior. Anybody know what that is? Good thing you're not eating right now. When you go through a lot of brutal abuse, the only way I could get back at them was to use my own bodily fluids. So I would pee on their pillows, pee in their purse, pee on their toothbrush, pee everywhere I could, poop on their bed, smeared under the bed, smeared on the clothes in the closet. That would follow me into my foster homes. I would use my own fluids. Now, I'm cured. It's not like if my wife makes me mad, I'm going to go poop in her purse. My foster mom will tell you, she's 74 or 75 now, and she'll tell you back in the day, she used to go to Montgomery Ward's and Kmart and JCPenney's and make her credit card payments at the counter instead of mailing in. So she would go and wait in line, and then when she'd get to the counter, she'd open up her purse, pull out her checkbook, and there was a nice gift from me. Gross motor problems due to abuse. So at 6 years old, I could not run. I could not walk up and down stairs. I had been kept in the closet a lot. So I did not develop those skills. I didn't learn to run until about 7 years old when my foster parents put me in soccer. They said, hey, we're going to put you in a sport of immersion where you're going to learn how to run. And I sucked at running. I sucked at soccer for like a year, and then I got to run, and now I'm good. Special class for severely emotionally disturbed children. The minor must be supervised closely at all times. Derek is hyperactive and emotionally disturbed. I'm still hyperactive. It's the way I was wired, nature and nurture. I tell many people that are like looked down on, well, I'm hyper. I'm like, that's a special energy. It's all right to be different. I have a friend who makes about $400,000 a year who has major ADHD and OCD and all this stuff, and he makes $400,000 a year selling software. He must get them hyped up and they just want to buy from him. I don't know. But he's a very good salesperson. Derek can't get along with anyone. He acts out against everyone. There is indication that the boy might be overtly psychotic. The child laughs inappropriately and shows much anxiety. I still laugh inappropriately. I call it spontaneous immaturity. I tell my wife, spontaneous immaturity. He talks frequently about guns, knives, hurting others. School placement should be an educationally handicapped program. Derek never had any positive modeling figure. He has some psychosexual confusion. So at 6 years old, no joke, I didn't even know what a boy and a girl were, the vocabulary. I knew I had the anatomy of a boy and I wanted to use it, but I didn't know that I was even a boy. When Derek expresses his impulses, it is usually in terms of oral aggression, aggression in general, death, or sex. 6 years old, I know everything about sex. I know all the nasty words. I know that I like death. I want to kill people. He has thoughts of murdering his mother, and it went from murdering his mother to murdering other people. These are the excerpts from the professionals on my case files. Must be physically restrained because he flies into rages and is completely unmanageable. His severe emotional disturbed state of mind interferes with his overall functioning. By the time Derek was a year old, he pretty much withdrawn from reality. That's a pretty bold statement of somebody spending 18 hours with me to come up with this. So you're already giving me an out, first of all, and second of all, you're just making an excuse for me. He loses contact with reality frequently without warning, poor visual perception, poor visual motor coordination. My vocabulary is very limited. My vocabulary at 6 years old is 60 words. The national average is 2,600 words for a 6-year-old, but a sliding scale between 1,000 to 10,000 words. I have 60-word vocabulary, and most of them are cuss words and nasty words and sorry. Verbal scale indicates below average general knowledge, logical thinking, and language development. Derek has erratic psychosis, is not adoptable based on the severity of Derek's emotional problems. I'm here to tell you every kid is adoptable. Every kid deserves a family. Thank you. If an adequate foster home cannot be found, Derek will be sent back to the psychiatric institution, which is Napa State Hospital, which is a very famous psychiatric hospital in California. Neurological and psychological tests indicate Derek has the IQ of a 2-year-old with intellectual disabilities, but they didn't use intellectual disabilities. They put mentally are. And that's how I came prepackaged with other labels, attachment, and all this other stuff, and prepackaged into the system after they were done with me at the psychiatric facility. So I ask you, what is the deeper issue? Their outside world, these youth, these children, their outside world is a reflection of their inside world. And sometimes we are so quick to just slap a label on them. I spoke to a ton of neurologists and psychologists in Ohio, and they brought me in as their keynote speaker. And I said to them, this is my most controversial moment right now. I said to them, you know, medication for grieving children and youth should not be the first thing you do. And you heard the audience go, ah. And I said, oh, I hear you. I'm here for like 3 hours with you. So let's talk. I go, hey, put your hands up if you've ever had any craziness as a child, if you saw your parents die in front of you, or you were prostituted out, or you watched your mom do meth, or whatever. 3 people put their hands up. And I said, where is the compassion for the grieving child? Where is the humanity? These are children. If there's one thing that we can relate to, all of us, is we were all once children. We're all once children. And so, if we have to look beyond their behavior, if the behaviors are a story that children and youth may not be able to tell in any other way, we need to focus on connection. Connection, connection. I have this whole program called Connection versus Correction, Alliance versus Compliance. And when I speak for the Federal Bureau of Prisons or Department of Corrections and stuff, and even at prisons, you know, it's a revolving door. They come in, they go out. And I asked a woman's population in San Luis Obispo, California. I spoke to them for 90 minutes, to all the women in prison. And after I was done, they all wanted to give me a hug and a kiss. I'm like, oh, please, I don't know. Should you be touching me? You know, I don't know what's going on. And then the CEO, the correctional officer, oh, just let them. They just love you, right? So as they're all telling me, they're like coming up to me, I said, tell me your story. And I said this, who'd you connect to growing up? And not one of them said their Girl Scout leader, their Sunday school teacher, or their grandma, or most of them said my pimp, my drug dealer, or my boyfriend that made me do bad stuff in the name of love. So I came up with this program on connection versus correction because nobody really connected to somebody that was a positive modeling example for them. Also, if labels are hastily assigned as an explanation to a child's development and behavioral responses, he or she is at great risk of growing into that label and becoming the disorder itself. Let me give you an example. I was speaking in Kansas, 2,000 people. The line was long of people that wanted to meet me. This guy came up to me and says, "Can you give me your card? I want to call you later." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "I have something important." He calls me like a week later. And he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I got this kid I adopted when she was like almost 1. And she has been an angel for 8.5 years. And she's 9 now. But the last 6 months have been hell. And we're actually thinking of getting rid of her." And I said, "Hey, don't you think about, well, we have her in counseling now, and it turns out she has all these labels." And I go, "Well, everything's been great for 8.5 years?" He goes, "Yeah, but I don't think we're going to keep her." I go, "You don't just throw away a kid. You're pissing me off." And he goes, "Well, I don't know what to do." And then something came over me. I said, "Tell me the dynamics of your family." I went on a different discussion now. A different path. He goes, "Well, I have a 17-year-old son. I have a 6-year-old. I've been married, 19 years. And I love this quote that says, "We are not humans having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having a human experience." And I feel that we are all interconnected. That when we take off our masks and we become really raw and vulnerable, that we are so much like each other. And something shot through my heart, through my mind, that said this. I feel like I'm supposed to tell you this. Watch your 17-year-old son. And he goes, What's that supposed to mean? What are you implying?" I go, "I don't know. I'm supposed to tell you that." He goes, "Well, I don't know what you're implying by that, but that's wrong," and blah, blah, blah. I go, "I don't know what, I'm supposed to just tell you, watch your 17-year-old son." So he's like getting upset at me. And I'm like, "Dude, you called me, dude. You called me. I'm not going to blow sunshine up you and tell you, yeah, I'm going to make you feel good of getting rid of the kid." No. Life goes on. 6 months later, I get a call from this guy crying. I go, "What's going on?" He goes, "I don't know if you remember me. I was going to get rid of this daughter." And I go, "Yeah. Well, my 17-year-old son just got arrested. Caught him molesting her. Molesting the little girl. And we're slapping a bunch of labels on her saying that she's this, that this, and this, when in reality, she's going through trauma. She's grieving. There's no reason to throw down a label. We have to connect with her instead of just doing a little checkoff list. Well, it's like a menu. Just like, well, he's hyper. He must be ADHD. Well, he's not being respectful to me, so he's oppositional defiance disorder. Oh, he's not attaching to his foster parent because he has attachment or disorder. No. I told that man, I said, "Listen, don't believe any label that she has. You get her into counseling and start working through this. We don't need to be throwing her on a bunch of meds. We got to deal, feel, heal. We got to get right to it." So many of us mask our pain, and guess what? Every one of you, it catches up with you. And usually in your late 30s and 40s, I see, because I get thousands of messages all the time. They're 40 years old, they're 35 years old. There's triggers that happen later on when you start having kids and you watch your parents start being great to the grandkids, and you're wondering, well, they were never that nice to me. And guess what? You start having some issues. And you start arguing with your mom and dad because you're holding stuff in, you've been holding on and stuff. So we have to focus on connection, connection, connection. This program, connection, if these kids, like me, don't have the connection, I call it relational poverty. That's a great little buzzword there, because we need relationships. Every human being needs relationships, a connection. So meaningful connections, how do you do that? To youth may be revealed as their relationship to a teacher, a coach, a former foster parent, a current foster parent, a social worker, or a previous social worker, counselor, or any adult member of their family. Who are they? Where are they? How can they be mobilized to become involved or re-involved in the life of this young person? Like Josh Shipp said earlier, they're one caring adult away from being a success story. And do you know what caring means? They didn't really go into it, but someone that is consistently there, even when they're in and out of juvie, even when they let you down, consistently there knowing that you're not going to give up on them based on their decisions. I came up with a list. I speak to a lot of grieving people and youth. And I came up with a list that I hope helps you, and you're going to need to take your cell phones out and snap a picture of it when it's done. But what youth want from adults working with them? The first one is listen to me. I can't tell you. That's the number one, listen to me. It's interesting in the word listen, the letters rearranged differently is the word silent. How many of us silent our minds when we're listening, or do we listen to reply? Now, I'm guilty in my own relationship with my wife, where sometimes I just listen, I want to hear myself. She goes, you get paid to talk. Will you just be quiet, right? But I'm like, I just want to give. I learned early on in my marriage that my wife doesn't want to be fixed. Like, if she has an issue and she's complaining to me, guys, take note of this. This will save you heartache. You may have an aha moment here. But us guys, we want to fix you because you're complaining to us. And we just like want to fix you and to move you on your way because we don't want to hear about it. That's the truth. And if it's the same issue, we're like, okay, this is what you do. You should, you need to. That you don't say you should and you need to your wife. I've learned that. But you know what she said to me years ago? She goes, Derek, I don't need you to fix me. I just need you to listen. Just be quiet. Now listening, I tried this too. Listening is like, oh gosh, are you almost done? I gotta go. That's not listening. I'm already guilty of doing that years ago. Not recently, years ago, okay? I'm a good guy now. And so, but listening with compassion, I call it compassionately listening, being there for them. She's my best friend. If you were talking to your best friend, you would be listening intently. And then I would say, well, do you want my opinion? And she goes, no, not really. But I listened, okay? The next one, meet me where I'm at. If I've got piercings all over my face, if I've got illegal tattoos as a 15-year-old, if I've already had 3 babies, and you know I got 3 babies in the system, or if I've been in and out of juvie, or I've been on heroin, I've been clean for a year. It doesn't matter. Meet me where I'm at. Don't come in there and try to be all authoritative and be judgmental. You won't ever connect to us. And we're cussing you out and maybe murdering you in our minds. Believe in me, because I don't believe in myself. I've been thrown into the system. I didn't ask to be in foster care. I didn't ask to be abused. And sometimes your belief in me is going to spark that belief in myself to believe that I'm worthy. Acknowledge me. Make me feel important. I'm just a kid. My foster parents realized early on I didn't learn to read and write till 9 and 10 years old. I'm that delayed. So learn to run at 7, read and write at 9 and 10 years old. And my foster parents realized that inside of this angry kid, there's a little boy in there somewhere. There's a boy in there. There's a kid. So you have to learn not to take things personal when we act out. If you take things personal, that means you got an issue. I'm bold right there. That means you might need therapy. Something from your past is triggering you. You're the expert. You're the expert. This kid has been hardwired the wrong way. What I thought love was you abuse me. So think about how you're going to connect to me when you're like, oh, Derek, I love you. No, you don't. Unless you beat me or something, then that's my frame of thinking. That's how my hard drive was wired. That's how I was programmed. Treat me with fairness. Treat me with respect. Don't be judgmental of me. Continue to support me even if I make a mistake. If I'm in and out of juvie, still be there for me. Because all I'm doing is I'm pushing, I'm testing, I'm tricking, I'm lying, I'm doing all this stuff because I'm trying to see if you're going to leave me. And if you don't leave me, I'm still thinking you're going to leave me. But consistently being there, even when I make poor choices, instead of throwing gas on the fire, you're literally like, You know what people used to say to me? Because they used to throw gas on my fire. I had a lot of anger issues, and rightfully so. And then one guidance counselor said to me, instead of like, Derek, why are you doing this all the time? Blah, blah, blah. You know what she said? And it helped my mindset. You know you're better than this, Derek. You're better than this. So I pass that on all the time. You're better than this. Start saying that. You know, Tommy or Tina, you're better than this. I am?